Okay, yeah, ठीक है. There are two softwares which we use for providing quality videos to the students who watch it recorded. But problem is that they both interfere with each other, and sometimes the video quality may get a bit poor. But now I think it's perfectly fine. So we'll continue from here. All right. So we started our discussion. We started our discussion with a discussion on marital rape. All right, and I told you that marital rape, a standalone question may not be asked on marital rape, but it can be asked in conjunction with patriarchy. So the question that can be asked is, what is patriarchy? What are the forms of patriarchy? And establish marital rape as a case of patriarchy. All right, so this is a potential means question that can be asked from this concept of marital rape. Okay. So here you can define marital rape in the introduction, and you can tell that marital rape is establishing the physical sexual relationship without the consent of wife, even in a nuptial bond. Okay, even in marriage, the consent is very important because even if the woman is married, it doesn't mean that she does not have bodily autonomy. The bodily autonomy has to be there, and any kind of physical relationship, it should always be based upon consent. Okay, it should be consensual. Otherwise, it will tantamount to rape always. All right, and it's a sabotage on the dignity of the women, both physical integrity as well as mental dignity. So, but the thing is this, in India, marital rape is not recognized. And now some courts have certainly tried to advocate for it. But right now, there is no government law that actually take into account marital rape. And for that reason, marital rape is a classic case of patriarchy in India. So the potential question that can be asked in your exam is, what is patriarchy? What are the forms of patriarchy? And establish marital rape as a case of patriarchy. How to tackle this kind of question? You will first tell that what is patriarchy. Patriarchy is nothing but dominance of male over the female gender. All right. So when there is a dominance of one gender over the other gender, particularly the males over the female, this situation is known as patriarchy. And there are two forms of patriarchy. What are the two forms of patriarchy? There is a private patriarchy, and there is this private patriarchy, and then there is this public patriarchy. What is the difference between the two? What is the difference between the two? The difference between the two is very simple, that private patriarchy is within the ambit of the household, and public patriarchy is, you can say, it is more of the government or outside the household. If there is continuation of patriarchy, that is known as public patriarchy. Now, marital rape can be used as a justification for both forms of patriarchy. All right. Correct, Jabji, that's right. Okay. So yes, correct. So marital rape is a classical example of both public patriarchy as well as private patriarchy. How it is the classical case of private patriarchy? First of all, it is a classical case of private patriarchy because marital rape or existence, no recognition of marital rape. All right, no recognition of marital rape. It bereft or it deprives the women, deprives the wife of bodily autonomy. So the wife does not have bodily autonomy in this case. So this is again a classical case of private patriarchy, because within the household, the wife or the spouse is not having, or there is no recognition of bodily autonomy for the spouse. If we talk about the public patriarchy is like the government. So public patriarchy means a reflection of patriarchy within the ambit of the government. And here you can see the case of that there is no law that recognizes marital rape. This shows the patriarchal mindset of the government also, and therefore continuation of marital rape unrecognized in India is an example of both public patriarchy as well as private patriarchy, and it is therefore established that marital rape is a classical case of overall patriarchy in India. Is this clear? So if there's a question about, if there's a question to establish marital rape as a case of patriarchy, you will have to show it as a case of both private patriarchy as well as public patriarchy, patriarchy within household and patriarchy in the government mindset. Yes, correct. So women has all sexual and reproductive rights, and they have to be recognized and respected. No, Ayushi, I'm not saying marital rape is public. I'm saying that marital rape is an example of public patriarchy because the government is not recognizing. There is no law that recognizes marital rape in India. And because of this reason, the government is having the patriarchal mindset. If the government does not have the patriarchal mindset, the government would have recognized marital rape as one of the basic reasons for criminalizing the husband and the perpetrator of the crime, certainly. Okay. देखिए definition marital rape की ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. All right, if you want to just go for defining what is marital rape, you can simply define marital rape as as a forced physical sexual relationship with the wife without the consent that deprives. All right, so if we have to write marital rape, you can write a sociological definition. Let's write down that marital rape is, लिख लीजिए, it will take a couple of minutes. Marital rape is an act of establishing physical sexual relationship. Marital rape is an act of establishing physical sexual relationship with the wife in a marriage, without her consent, that deprives the wife, without her consent, that deprives the wife of bodily autonomy, and tarnish her dignity. That deprives the wife of bodily autonomy and tarnish her dignity. This is the definition, Prayas. This is the definition of marital rape. Is it clear? Right? Chaliye. That was all about marital rape. This is the extent to which a question may be asked in marital rape. Now we are going to talk today about the first thing is communalization of media. No, Ananya, as of now, no. All right, as of now, no. Okay. So now we are going to talk about communalization of media. All right. So we are discussing today the first topic after marital rape is communalization of media. Now, the first and the foremost thing that we should discuss is what is communalization. Then we are going to discuss what are the instances of communalization of media that are visible these days and what step the government has taken to fight communalization of media. So potential question from this topic, that is communalization of media, they are: what is communalization? What is communalization? What do you understand by the word communalization? What is communalization? Communalization is based on, all right, let me phrase it in the form of a prelims. Let me ask you this question in the form of a prelims question. What is the basis of communalization? Number one, religion. Let's call A religion, B language, C language, C let's say region, D all of the above? What will be your answer if you go with the definition of communalism? Yes, good, good, good. I am seeing majority of the answers as D and few answers as C. Well, those of you who are giving me answer D is right. All right. And those of you who are giving me answer A is religion, there's a little thing that I have to tell you so that you all will agree that communalism can be on any basis. The word communalization, or you can say communalism, it emerges from the word community. That emerges from the word community. So communalization, the word, or communalism emerges from the community. What is community? Community is a group of people. It is a group of people who are bound around. Who are bound around by a common belief, by a common identity. All right, not belief, by a common identity. This is the basic definition of community. Community is a group of people. Community is a group of people who are bound around together by a common identity. It is a common identity that binds the people. Now, this common identity can be anything. This source of common identity can be anything. But in case of India, the source of this identity is primarily religion. The source of this identity is primarily religion. And this is the reason, my dear friends, that in India, it is the religion that becomes the basis of communalism, or dividing the society on the basis of religion in India is known as communalization. Otherwise, in general, communalization can be dividing the people and developing an animosity or competition between different communities which form a common identity on certain aspects. Is it clear? So communalization can be on the basis of any cultural trait, but in case of India, it is primarily religion, because in India the identity is mostly driven out of religion. All right. Therefore, in Indian context, what we can say, in Indian context, we can simply say that communalization is nothing but it is polarization of Indian society, into communal groups, which in case are religious groups, which in case of India this time are religious groups. All right, religious groups, and development of animosity between them. This is what is the meaning of the word communalization in India, right? So it is the polarization of Indian society into Anand, it is देखिए Anand, this is the precise reason that I told you that the source of identity can be anything. Communalization, let's say, in case of, let's say, the Muslim world. In the Muslim world, communalization will not be between Hindu or Muslim. It will be on the basis of sectarian or sect, on the basis of sects, Shia and Sunni. This is also communalization because that religion has two communities. Are you getting my point, Anand? I am not saying, see, sectarianism is a kind of communalism. So in India, communalism is automatically related to religion. Similarly, linguistic segregation can also be linguistic communalism, regional communalism. If region becomes the source of identity, it can make two communities, and those two communities can develop their own communalization. But remember this thing, communalization is always with respect to a dominant identity. And in India, this dominant identity is primarily driven by, all right, that primarily driven by religion, right? That's good. All right. So this is known as communalization. Now, when we go ahead, after understanding the concept of communalization, you may be asked, what are the, so, all right, so we have just got to the understanding of the concept of communalization. No, Tamanna, no. Nahi. Jat issue in 2016 was not a communal riot. No. Communal riot in Indian case will be primarily between the two dominant religion. One is the majority, that's Hindu, and second is the largest minority, that is Muslim. Animosity is a feeling of hatred. Animosity is a feeling of hatred. Yes. All right. So after understanding what is communalization, now let's understand a basic topic that we are covering, as that is, why was this communalization in news? So we are doing this topic in news because this particular week, the Chief Justice of India, it made certain remarks regarding communalization of media. Regarding communalization of media. So there was a petition which was put forth all right. There was a petition that was put forth before the Supreme Court, whereby the petitioner demanded that the Supreme Court intervene in the instances of communalization of media over the last couple of years. All right. So there was a petition in the Supreme Court regarding communalization of media, where the petitioner gave certain numerous instances where media is playing the role of creating communalization or spreading communalization in India. So what are the instances that have been enumerated? So let me talk about some of the instances. For example, all right, so now we are going to talk about instances of communalization done by media. The first is the Tablighi Jamaat. The Tablighi Jamaat was considered as spreader of COVID-19. All right. So people believe that Tablighi Jamaat, they are the one who is responsible for the spreading of COVID-19. This was portrayed by Indian media by a significant hue and cry. This is lamented by the court as one of the instance of communal hatred spreading propaganda used by media. Then there was another instance which gave birth to the love jihad concept, and that is the Hadia case. The Hadia case, all right, which is associated with the concept of love jihad, which was very much highlighted by the media, Yes, correct. How many of you don't know what is Hadia case? What was Hadia case? How many of you don't know about that? All right. Okay. See, Hadia case, let me tell you a little bit about the Hadia case. What was the Hadia case? In the Hadia case, there was this lady. So let me tell you about this case. This case is also known as Hadia case is also known as Shafin Jahan versus Ashokan KM case. In this case, what happened? There is this Ashokan KM, his daughter, her name is Akhila Ashokan. Akhila Ashokan. So this Akhila Ashokan, she wanted to follow Islam. She wanted to follow Islam by her own choice. All right. However, her father Ashokan came, he objected to it, and this made Akhila Ashokan she fled her home, and later she married this gentleman Shafin Jahan. His father, sorry, Akhila's father Ashokan came, he perpetrated he initiated a legal suit against Shafin Jahan, where it was pointed out that her daughter is forcefully converted to Islam and married. Being a Hindu, she was married to a Muslim person. This was portrayed by media as a case of love jihad. Will it result into communal disharmony? Will it result into communalization or not? Certainly it will. So this case is popularly known as Hadia case, which was highlighted by the media as a case of love jihad. Another instance where media is using or media is being used to spread communal issue is the case of UPSC Jihad. This was also very much perpetrated, or it was very much spread in the news, in intense discussions on, yes, Sudarshan News, correct. Intense debate was made over this topic that is known as UPSC Jihad. Let me tell you what is UPSC Jihad. There is this Sudarshan TV. All right. In one of the program, the anchor of this Sudarshan TV, he remarked that the Muslims, they are running it as a propaganda to appear in UPSC exams and occupy the top ranks in the society, or you can say top administrative post. And it was shown as a purposeful jihad by the Muslims against the other religion by occupying the top administrative post, which makes no sense, but it is having sufficient, yes, it is having sufficient, you can say, force behind it, that it can make the society polarized. Tablighi Jamaat is a, जैसे अपने like for example there is a religious congregation of certain people who belong to a collectivity called as Tablighs. All right, so they have this Tablighi Jamaat. Unka there was a Hazrat Nizamuddin. Hazrat Nizamuddin, they gathered together for a religious congregation. All right, yeah, जैसे कुंभ मेला होता है, बिल्कुल, yeah, seminar था उनका, correct, you can say that. All right, so this case of UPSC Jihad, Hadia case, Tablighi Jamaat being showcased as the perpetrators or as the culprits behind the spread of COVID-19 in India, these all tantamounts to communalization by the media. All right, communalization by the media. So these are the instances that were enumerated by the petitioner before the Supreme Court. In this case, the Supreme Court had ruled out that there is certainly some kind of lack of adequate accountability, and the Supreme Court asked the government, what have you done? So what was the Supreme Court's response? The Supreme Court acknowledged the communalization by media Communalization by media. And at the same time, Supreme Court also remarked that there is lack of accountability. There is lack of accountability. There's a lack of accountability that यूपीएससी जिहाद, अरे देखिए यूपीएससी जिहाद कुछ नहीं है, ये एक बिलीफ है हमारे एक सुदर्शन टीवी के एंकर हैं उनका कि the Muslims, they are running coaching institutes exclusively for Islamic people, Muslim people, so that they can become the civil servants, become the top bureaucrats, and then the Muslims start dominating the top bureaucracy. This was an alleged belief. All right, this was an alleged belief of that anchor, which was then carried forward by other top media institutions in the country. All right, it was then carried forward by other media groups in the country. This is what is actually meaning of UPSC Jihad. Is it clear? All right. Now the Supreme Court acknowledged, yes Rahul, correct. The Supreme Court acknowledged the communalization by media and remarked that there is certain lack of accountability. The Supreme Court also demanded the government's response in this regard. And the government responded that it has taken two particular steps for preventing communalization of media. All right, the government responded with two steps that have been taken. What are the two steps? The first, the government said that it has introduced the information technology, intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code rules 2021. All right, so the government said that that we have come out with the information technology rules 2021. And the second government said that they have come out with the cable TV networks amendment rules 2021. Cable TV networks amendment rule 2021. All right. So the government responded to the court that to tackle the problem of communalization of media, they have come out with number one, information technology rules 2021 and cable TV networks amendment rule 2021. These are the two steps that the government has taken. So what are the provisions of information technology? What are the provisions of information technology amendment rules 2021? In one of the current affairs classes sometime back, we had already talked about that. So we are again going to, talk a little in brief about these technology amendment rules, information technology amendment rules 2021. So first of all, the government said that under the information technology rules 2021, there is a grievance redressal setup that has been put. Yes, Adarsh, there is a grievance redressal. There is a grievance redressal mechanism that has been put on over the top media platforms and the digital media portals of the country. Any person who is offended by any manner can respond and can file and can seek grievance from the OTT platforms and the digital media platforms if they are not happy with any of the content. So the government said that to tackle the problem of communalization of media, communalization by media, they have introduced the grievance redressal. They have introduced the grievance redressal system. All right, grievance redressal system for both OTT platforms as well as other digital media platforms, such that anyone who is offended, sir, is lynching of Muslims portrayed by media is also a case of communalization. बिल्कुल है जी, उसको मिर्च मसाला लगा के बताना बिल्कुल है, ठीक है, राइट। एनीवन ऑफेंडेड, certain provisions, Anand, certain provisions. Okay. So grievance redressal system, anyone who is offended by any content, they can seek grievance. They can seek grievance. And this being offended include even communal offense. It only also include anyone who can be communally offended. They can seek grievance. All right. Second, the government also said that significant social media intermediaries, they have to establish a chief compliance officer who will be the nodal contact person whom one has to contact in case of any kind of grievance that may come up. So social media, or you can say the significant social media intermediaries, they need to have a chief compliance officer. They need to have a chief compliance officer who will be a nodal officer for available for 24/7, who will look into the matter of compliance of these IT rules. All right. So significant social media intermediaries. Who are significant social media intermediaries? Who are significant social media intermediaries? What is the benchmark? How many subscribers? So how many registered users? This is a potential prelims question, that who is a significant social media intermediary in case of IT Rules Amendment Act 2021? Answer is any social media with a registered user base more than or equal to 50 lakhs. They are referred to as significant social media intermediary. These people, these intermediaries like Twitter, like Facebook, like WhatsApp, they will have to create the post of chief compliance officers, which Twitter actually has denied. All right. So this chief compliance officer, he will be the nodal officer who will, with whom the law enforcement agencies can come in contact 24/7 in case of any grievance that has been brought to the notice of law enforcement officers. All right. Then these particular social media platforms, digital platforms, OTT platforms, they will have to establish the post of a grievance officer. There is one grievance officer that has to be set up by these social media platforms. This officer, he is the person who shall register any kind of grievance, that is his task is to register any grievance over any content within 24 hours post complaint. As soon as you go for filing a complaint, within 24 hours, this grievance officer has to take cognizance of this grievance and register it. Yes, Dhruv. All right. Mention it. Then next, This person, grievance officer, he has to dispose of this complaint or dispose of this grievance within a period of 15 days. Within a period of 15 days. Next provision that is there as part of the IT Rules Amendment 2021. If there is any content that sabotage the dignity of any group, particularly the women, particularly in case of nudity, all right, showing them in poor conduct, any kind of demeaning content has to be removed within 24 hours of the complaint. So any content which is against the dignity of users, it has to be removed. It has to be removed within 24 hours. It has to be removed within 24 hours after the complaint has been made. Within 24 hours after the complaint. All right. So this is one bare minimum that is there. Any content which is against the dignity of the users. Yes, Rushil, correct. All right. Yeah. Then apart from this, there's a provision of a monthly report. A monthly report that has to be presented by this social media and OTT platforms regarding how many grievances were received, how many grievances were disposed of, what was the time period of disposing the grievance, what content was removed, what content was objected. Everything has to be presented in monthly reports. And the last provision that is there of IT Rules Amendment 2021 is that there will be 3 levels of regulations on digital news publishers. By digital news publishers. All right, what are these? Number 1, the first is self-regulation by the platform. All right, any platform which is publishing any news, it has to self-regulate that news. Any platform which publishes a news, it has to self-regulate the news by itself. By its own conscience, it should not publish anything that hurt the sentiment of any particular group. So there will be self-regulation that will be there. Then there will be the self-regulation, or yes, but then there will be the self-regulation by a self-regulatory body. All right, self-regulatory body, which will be headed by a retired judge or an eminent person. All right, so there will be a self-regulatory body that will be created for social media regulation, which will be chaired by a retired judge or an eminent person. All right, and lastly, there will be oversight from the Ministry of Broadcasting. There will be oversight from the Ministry of Broadcasting. Right. So in the first ministry, union government, oversight by Ministry of Broadcasting. Okay, now try to see this thing, how this is going to take care of communalization by media. So first thing that will be there is that the social media platforms, they have to maintain officers with whom the law enforcement agencies can come in contact. They have to maintain a grievance officer whom can be contacted by the common person in case he or she is offended. And this offense may not be in terms of only gender or something. It can be even communal offense. One can be communally offended, even he can put an objection. The grievance officer has to register the complaint within 24 hours and dispose it off within 15 days. Getting my point, right? Then a monthly report has to be published by the social media platforms and OTT platforms as how many complaints were received, how many complaints were disposed of, what was the average time period used for disposing the complaints. So this will hold accountability. Any kind of content which is particularly sabotaging the dignity of any group, it has to be deleted within the 24 hours. And there will be 3 levels of regulation. First regulation is by the platform itself. Second regulation is by a regulatory body that will be created for OTT platforms and social media or digital platforms, which will be headed by a retired judge or the eminent person, right? And the third, there will be an oversight that will be taken care by the Ministry of Broadcasting. If think about a scenario where these rules and regulations are properly implemented, then yes, it's having the potential to yield good results. All right. It can check the communalization by media to a great extent. But for that, the intention has to be correct. All right. Nahi, Anant, regulatory bodies are not created by the platforms themselves. For the platforms, government may create a regulatory body which will have the members from all the platforms or prominent platforms. This is how regulatory bodies are created. It will be independent of the government. The government will be only playing the role in the third, that is oversight from the Ministry of Broadcasting. There will be a committee that will be set up if the people are not satisfied by this regulatory body. Yes, correct, Payal. All right. So this person, the chief compliance officer, he can be contacted 24/7. All right. He can be contacted 24/7 by any of the investigating agency. Yes. Okay. Then second rules that the government has commented are the cable TV network rules. The first that we have done, they are for the digital media platforms, OTT platforms. Now, these are the rules for the cable TV network. For the cable TV network, there are 3 levels of grievance redressal that the government has thought about. No, Anand, no. Abhi implementation stage mein hai. Power is not mentioned by the government, at least in these rules as of now. All right. But you yourself can think, what kind of power will they have? They will have the power to listen to the appeals of anyone who is not contented by the action by the self-regulatory platforms. If they are not happy, then you will go to the regulatory body, or even they can take cognizance of the matter suo motu. All right. Yes, Japjit, correct. Yellow journalism, correct. All right, yellow journalism and sensationalization has actually given birth to communalization by these social media platforms and news. No doubt about that. See, why I'm making you do this topic, because a question can certainly be asked. I don't know how many of you know this event, but there was once a kind of flood in Pakistan. And this thing came in news very heavily, that one of the anchor was sitting on the shoulder of a person standing in the flood waters, and he was reporting it from there. This made rounds in the social media, and a potential question was asked in the UPSC about ethical journalism. Getting my point? So yellow journalism, sensationalization, these all can give birth to jingoism, and this can be the basis of communalization spread by the media for that matter. All right. Yes. So let's now look into what are the regulations that are there. All right. Regulations that are there in case of regulations that are there in case of cable TV networks. Let's first look into that. All right. Cable TV networks. The first and the foremost is that there is a three level grievance redressal mechanism setup. In the cable TV also, there's a three-level grievance that has been set up. What are these? Number one, the first is self-regulation by the broadcaster. The one who is broadcasting the material on the cable TV, he will go for self-regulation by themselves. Second is self-regulation by the regulatory authorities. And the third is oversight by interdepartmental committee. These three provisions are there in case of cable TV networks. In case of cable TV networks, the first regulation will be taken care by, all right, the first regulation will be taken care by the broadcaster of, all right, it will be taken care by the broadcaster of the material himself. All right. Like for example, if Ashtak is giving some news, the first thing that should be, Ashtak should self-regulate the authenticity of that news that is being carried out. Secondly, it is the self-regulation by the regulatory bodies. For example, News Broadcasters Association, all right, NBA can be one of the example. That is a self-regulatory body for news that is broadcasted on cable TV networks. They can also do the regulation. So regulation by the regulatory bodies, and then oversight by interdepartmental committee. If you are, so first you put the, so if you are offended by any particular news that is there on cable TV networks, first you put a objection with the broadcaster of this media. Then if you are not satisfied, you have to go and talk to the regulatory body. If you are not satisfied there, then you can approach the oversight committee. The oversight committee will be under the chairmanship of the additional secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and will have the members from other ministries. So if you are not happy with the decision of the self-regulatory body, you can still go to oversight. So for regulation of any kind of communal matters on cable TV networks, there are three levels of grievance redressal that has been given. So this is the response that the government has put forth. All right, this is the response that the government has put forth to fight the communalization by the media. To fight the communalization by media. Is it clear to all? Is it clear? All right. So those of you who do not know what is yellow journalism, let me explain you what is yellow journalism. Yellow journalism is a term which is popular in the US for you can say journalism that provide information that provide information whose authenticity cannot be tested, whose authenticity is not tested. The one who presents the news doesn't know whether this is an authentic news or not. They do not know whether this is an authentic news or not. And this type of journalism is known as yellow journalism. All right, presenting illegitimate, non-researched news, all right, with eye-catching headlines for increased sales. This is a journalism only for TRP. This is a journalism only for TRP. This is known as yellow journalism. All right, making use of exaggerated headlines to increase your sales, using information which is not tested for its authenticity, using or giving information which is not well investigated. This kind of journalism is known as yellow journalism. All right, fake news, for example. Fake news, right? So after discussing this topic, can you answer questions like what is nationalism or what is communalization? Why is there, or what are the instances of communalization of media in India? What is the court's observation and what was the response of the government? Is it clear? Can you attempt these questions, right? So we have taken care of all the possible dimensions related to communalization by media. All right, so let's now switch to the next topic, and the next topic is, let's talk about the regional grouping that is known as Brics. Brics. All right, so why we are doing Brics? Because the 13th Brics Summit देखिए तमन्ना, बिल्कुल, when Tina Dabi got divorced, at that time many of the media channels in a subtle manner presented it as a case of love jihad. Yes, if this is the case, in that scenario certainly it was communalization by media. Getting my point? Certainly. And any similar method will be an example of communalization by media. Okay, right. So let's go and talk about Brics. Why? Because it has been decided that the 13th Brics Summit, that is starting 9th of September, will be taking place in a digital format under India's chairmanship. So Brics 13th Summit will be taking place in a digital format under Indian chairmanship. All right. When was the first meeting? Where was the first Brics Summit took place? Where? Which place? Prelims information. The first summit took place in the year 2009 in Yekaterinburg. Yekaterinburg in Russia. Brics is a regional grouping that consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and later on South Africa was added to this group. Earlier it was BRIC, and then later on South Africa was added, making the four BRIC countries into a 5-member group, that is Brics. And this week 13th summit has been announced from 9th of September in the digital format, and the chairman of this particular summit will be India. The first BRICS summit took place in 2009 in Russia, and the place was Yekaterinburg. Second was in 2010 in Brasilia, which is the capital city of Brazil. The third was in the year 2011 in Sanya, that is China. Fourth, it was in 2012, that was India. And fifth was in the year 2013, it was South Africa. All right, I've just given you the sequence. The first was in Russia, second was Brazil, third was China, fourth was India, and fifth was South Africa. All right, so this is the 13th that we are talking about. 13th is going to take place from 9th of September 2021, and it's in India, New Delhi. इससे पहले 12th, where did 12th BRICS Summit took place in 2020? Who was the chairman of 12th BRICS Summit 2020? Prelims question. It was Russia, St. Petersburg. All right, Russia. Okay, so current you have to remember, past you have to remember, and first you have to remember from examination point of view. Now this Russia, so this group, it is a plurilateral grouping that comprises of the 5 countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and every country chair this BRICS Summit annually, and every year the chairman of this BRICS Summit changes. India has previously been the chair in 2012 as well as in the year 2016. All right, so India will be the chair third time. India chaired BRICS once in 2012, once in 2016, and this is the third, that is India will be the chair third time in the year 2021. All right, ठीक है? Now BRICS was initially set up What was the initial purpose of BRICS? What was the initial purpose of BRICS? The initial purpose of BRICS, it was not geopolitical. What was the purpose of BRICS? Yes, it was it was initially set up as an economic grouping against global financial institutions such as IMF and World Bank. All right. It was an economic setup. Trade was secondary. The main purpose of setting up the BRICS was as a counter force against the global financial institutions such as IMF and World Bank. Why? Because this IMF and World Bank, they were dominated by the Western powers. Western first world, particularly the US. So to counter the dominance or hegemony of the Western first world over the global financial institutions such as IMF and World Bank, we created BRICS. But today, BRICS is somewhere around 15 years old. And India's Minister of External Affairs has remarked that BRICS is like a young adult. BRICS is like a young adult who is going to look beyond economic association. Shans, फिर सोचो, is it Asian Development Bank or is it New Development Bank? All right. So BRICS today is around, the idea of BRICS around is 15 years old, and Ministry of External Affairs has emphasized that BRICS is like a young adult whose thoughts have shaped and worldview concretized and having a sense of responsibility that goes beyond just economic dimensions. The sense of responsibility of BRICS today is broadened, and therefore BRICS is no longer an economic grouping, and today it is emerging. And today it is emerging as a institution which can play a significant role in the global geopolitics. So let's discuss about the importance of BRICS. All right. Who gave the idea, or who coined the word BRICS? Who coined the word BRICS? Yes, it was coined by, no, it was not put in. Nahi, nahi, nahi. The word BRICS was formulated, it was coined in 2001 by the economist whose name is Jim O'Neill. All right, it was given by the economist whose name is Jim O'Neill. Neil, okay. He was from Goldman Sachs, and he said that, and he remarked that there are significant growth prospects for the countries like Brazil, Russia, India, and China, which together represent a significant share of the world's production and population. And that grouping was named as BRIC grouping by Goldman Sachs, which later converted into BRICS with incorporation of South Africa. So this idea of BRICS as an association was put forward by Jim O'Neill, who was an economist associated with Goldman Sachs. All right. And in one of the report, he said that there are significant growth prospects for similar economic countries like Brazil, India, China, and Russia. All right. Now, the importance of BRICS can be seen in the fact that BRICS represent 42% of global population. It represents 30% of world total area, 24% of global GDP. This is preliminary information, prelims important information, and it controls 16% of global trade. It controls 16% of global trade. BRICS is significant because it controls 42%, or it represents 42% of global population, 30% of global area, 24% of global GDP, and 16% of the global trade. Right? Now, the idea of BRICS is based on comparative advantage. The idea of BRICS is based on comparative advantage. What is comparative advantage? In comparative advantage, one can believe that every country has certain economic strength in BRICS, which are supplementing each other but not competing with each other. So what is the idea of comparative advantage in BRICS? It was given that the countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa, they have economic strengths that have minimum competition and maximum cooperation and maximum potential for cooperation. The economies of India, China, Brazil, Russia, and South Africa, they are not competing. They are rather collaborating. They have the potential to collaborate and cooperate. And this is the reason that these 5 countries have come together, because their economies, they are collaborating and not competing. They are collaborating and not competing. They can supplement each other's economic growth without cutting each other's economic growth. This is the idea of competitive advantage that became the basis of formulation of this grouping called as BRICS. Let us look at certain achievements of BRICS in these existence of like almost 1.5 decade. In these last 10-15 years of existence, what are the achievements that BRICS has taken up? In 2014, the year 2014 is a benchmark year in the history of BRICS. Why? Why? What happened in the year 2014? Where was this BRICS summit in 2014? It was in Brazil, and the name of the place is Fortaleza. Name of the place is Fortaleza in Brazil. In the year 2014, 2 very significant achievements that took place in case of BRICS history. The first is setting up of the new development bank. Setting up of new development bank. Second, setting up of contingent reserve arrangement. Correct? Yes. NDB and CRA. And most important, in 2014, there was this Fortaleza declaration that was given. All right. Fortaleza declaration. So in 2014, BRICS witnessed setting up of new development bank. It witnessed Fortaleza declaration and establishment of CRA, or contingent reserve arrangement. So let's look into what has new development bank has achieved till date. Now, New Development Bank has been successful in demonstrating itself as one of a very prominent multilateral development institution, providing alternate forms of funding to Asian countries, to developing countries who look forward to receiving funds. These funds which are provided by New Development Bank, these funds are not having any aid conditionality, which is there in case of the funding from IMF and World Bank. All right. So what is this New Development Bank? This New Development Bank was established by BRICS to counter International Monetary Fund and World Bank as global financing agency. You know that IMF and World Bank, their loans have aid conditionality. They will give you loan only when you go for bringing certain changes in your policies, which benefit the developed countries. Like for example, in what year did India go with structural adjustment program? In which year did India go with structural adjustment program? Yes, correct. India went with the structural adjustment program in the year 1991. In the year 1991, when India faced the balance of payment crisis, in that situation, India had to pledge gold with IMF and in return take dollars to get rid of this balance of payment crisis. It was given to India by IMF with the aid conditionality that you take money from us, but open your markets for the United States and other developed countries. They called in for liberalization, privatization, globalization. This is a kind of surrendering your sovereignty. By giving us the money, they forced certain economic changes upon us. This is what IMF and World Bank, under the influence of dominant powers like United States, do. And therefore, looking forward to an alternate funding agency, people, these BRICS countries came up with the new development bank. This new development bank will provide funding to the developing countries, underdeveloped countries, who otherwise will be dictated by the terms of US and other developed countries when they will seek funding from IMF and World Bank. Second is the contingent reserve. All right. So established by BRICS to counter IMF and World Bank. And they will provide funding to the developing and least developed countries so that their economic terms are not determined by some other agency. They maintain sovereignty in establishing their own terms. Then there was establishment of CRA. Then there is establishment of CRA. CRA is contingent reserve arrangement. This contingent reserve arrangement is an arrangement worth $100 billion to provide assistance to the BRICS members. In case of what? In case of short balance of payment crisis. Suppose tomorrow India faces a balance of payment crisis for some reason, immediate balance of payment crisis, and it need immediate funding. Then India, being a member of BRICS, can seek assistance from the BRICS countries under the CRA, that is contingent reserve arrangement. In case of a member country faces a short-term balance of payment crisis, that country should not run towards IMF or World Bank. It can take some amount from this $100 billion contingent reserve arrangement. So by these balance of payment crisis, Shrikant Nayak, is basically when your when you look at your balance sheet, there is, you can say, like, just to give you a rough idea, there are imports and exports. When your exports, they are in dollars, your imports jo hote hain, in imports you spend the dollars, in exports you earn the dollars. In such a situation, when your imports are way more than exports, such that you are not left with the foreign exchange reserve to pay for your imports, this kind of condition is known as the balance of payment crisis. You need immediate funding in case of foreign currency to yes, Tamanna, yes. BRICS new development bank is for members as well as other countries, but CRA has been exclusively set up for the member countries. But on a behest of the member countries, the CRA can also help any other country in case of its immediate need for, you can say, liquidity in case of a balance of payment crisis, right? And Fortaleza declaration, जो है Fortaleza declaration is a declaration which is manifesting itself in both CRA as well as New Development Bank. Under the Fortaleza Declaration, the BRICS countries, they you can say they agreed on amending. They agreed on amending the. They agreed on amending the, or you can say they agreed on proposing the amendments. They agreed on proposing the amendments to IMF, World Bank, and other multilateral financial institutions. Parampreet, mostly yes. The developed countries never seek funding from NDB. It is mostly the developing countries. All right. Yeah. So the achievement of BRICS is that under the Fortaleza Declaration, it led to establishment of New Development Bank and CRA. As well as under the Fortaleza Declaration, the BRICS countries agreed upon proposing and supporting the amendments to IMF, World Bank. And today this support is extended to even United Nations. Today this support is extended even to United Nations as well as World Trade Organization. Right? Now this World Bank over the years has actually went with, or you can say that it has approved 42 projects worth 11 billion US dollars. So it has started functioning and it is being successful as an alternative financing, institution for the small, you can say for the least developed countries or the developing countries without any kind of terms dictated on these countries by developed countries such as US. All right. So this is one of the very significant achievement. Now, the thing is this, that BRICS has expanded, or you can say that BRICS has potential to expand beyond economic cooperation. It has potential to expand beyond economic cooperation. And India is planning, or India's chairmanship will focus on broader role of BRICS in geopolitics and geoeconomy. Geopolitics and geoeconomics. So till date, BRICS has been playing the role of economic cooperation among 4 or 5 countries. All right. 5 countries are cooperating amongst each other in terms of economic cooperation, but now India under its chairmanship is aspiring to broaden the role of BRICS in the field of geopolitics and geoeconomics. India is, yes, there is a discussion about expanding it and allowing observer member states such as UAE, Uruguay, Bangladesh. Correct. Yes, that's true. So India under its chairmanship want to broaden the role of BRICS in the field of geopolitics and geoeconomics. For example, it is not only IMF and World Bank, but along with this, World Trade Organization, along with this, UN reforms are also targeted, which has broadened its agenda of IMF and World Bank reforms. All right. Second, it is also targeted that India is going to make BRICS countries develop a resolution and adopt a plan on the basis on the subject of global terrorism. Global terrorism. All right. So India is planning to pitch in. All right. India is planning to pitch in Brics in the field of global terrorism also, such that they define what is global terrorism, how to tackle those countries which are supporters and breeding ground for terrorists. For example, Pakistan, right? Then India is also going to promote greater digital cooperation. Digital cooperation. India is targeting digital cooperation, promoting technological and digital solutions for sustainable development goals. So digital cooperation for sustainable development goals. And lastly, India is aiming to promote cultural contact among people of Brics countries. People to people contact, cultural exchanges, scientist exchange, science student exchange program, right? Increased soft diplomacy, soft power diplomacy, music, film, entertainment, religion, people to people contact. So now what India is aspiring under its chairmanship for Brics, India want to expand the role of Brics from being a mere economic integration, economic association, economic body to a geopolitical body along with the economic role. These are the 4 target areas that India is going to put forth emphasis in the upcoming BRICS summit that is taking place on 9th of September, which is the 13th BRICS summit, right? So if there's a question that is about that, what is the significance of India? Yeah, what significant diversion that BRICS took place under India's chairmanship? So you will tell that under India's chairmanship, BRICS got a new vision where it transformed itself from being an economic cooperation group to a geopolitical group. When India pushed forward not only the economic agenda of reforming the IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, but also the United Nations and now even World Health Organization. Second, India pitched in for BRICS to play the role of a beacon or role of a torchbearer in the field of preventing global terrorism. India is of the opinion that the time is ripe right now that the global community through the United Nations adopt the International Convention on Global Terrorism. But the United Nations or the United Nations Security Council is reluctant right now. So India can pitch the same idea right now of combating global terrorism in BRICS. Once adopted in certain institution, it will later be certainly adopted even by the UN. Then India want that the BRICS countries should collaborate with each other on terms of digital technologies for achieving the sustainable development goals. And lastly, India is also promoting the people to people or cultural contacts among the BRICS countries. Are these concepts clear, right? Okay. Write down a question here. Write down a question. Write down a question. Criticized for absence of benchmarks. No, criticized for absence of requirements of an economic integration BRICS can play the role in geopolitics, can play the leadership role, or the leaders can play the leader's role in geopolitics? Discuss. I am giving you a couple of minutes to think on this line, and then I'll tell you what to write here. Think about this question. Criticized for absence of requirement of an economic integration, Brics can play the role of leader, can play the leader's role in geopolitics. Discuss. पिच करने में क्या जा रहा है आकाश? देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है. All right. Think on this question line, how you are going to attempt this question. You have a couple of minutes, and then I'll tell you what will be the structure that can fetch you good marks. So the question is, criticized for absence of requirements of an economic integration, Brics can play the role of a leader in geopolitics. Discuss. In this question, you don't have to focus more upon the geopolitics. This question wants you to answer that why is it, what are the requirements of an economic integration which are missing in Brics? The main focus of the question is why Brics, which was set up as an economic institution, is being criticized for not being an economic integration, such that we are looking for it to play the role of a leader in geopolitics. Are you getting my point? I'm twisting the question in such a manner that you will be telling me more about geopolitics and nothing about the requirement of an economic integration. This question want you to explain to me that why is Brics being criticized as an economic integration, number one, and second, why is it that Brics can play the leader role in geopolitics? ठीक है, चलें अब. Okay, now you see how to attempt this question, because this is of UPSC level. देखिए, for an efficient economic cooperation or integration, like European Union or ASEAN, we require certain characteristics, and then we have to see if we have those characteristics in case of Brics. Number one, geographical proximity. Is there geographical proximity between the Brics countries? No. They are located in 4 different continents. Second, comparable economic size and growth. Is it same? Is it same for all these countries? No. Ancient or cultural linkages. Do they have ancient and cultural linkages? No. Fourth, similar ambitions, agenda. Do they have? No. Mutual trust and harmony. Among all the members, it is required. These are some basic characteristics that we require in an efficient economic cooperation or economic integration, as in case of European Union, in case of NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, in case of ASEAN, Association for Southeast Asian Nation, we require geographical proximity. We require comparable economic size and economic growth. We require ancient cultural linkages. We require people-to-people contact. We require similar ambitions and agenda. We require mutual trust on each other, which is missing from this grouping. And this is the reason that this grouping is being criticized for not being an economic, or it will not have the potential role to be an efficient economic integration. Is it clear? Is it clear? This is it. This is why it is criticized. कहाँ पे? सिर्फ India and China Buddhism is common. Rest everywhere, no, it is not common. Or India maybe Buddhism is the third, fourth minority. Right? These are the reasons that people say that Brics cannot be an efficient economic integration. Clear? Is it clear? Yes, yes, Shreyans. All these are present in all these 5 things. Out of these 5 things, 4 are present in ASEAN. There is no mutual trust. Sorry, SAARC. All right, geographical proximity, comparable economic size, cultural linkages, similar ambitions and agenda, they are present in case of SAARC, but there is no mutual trust. SAARC cannot be a perfect economic integration because there is absence of mutual trust. Right? Yes. Now, if it cannot play the role of a perfect market integration, economic integration, it can certainly play the role in geopolitics. This can be seen in case of India's chairmanship and proposed agenda, reforms of multilateral groupings. Leadership of least developed countries and developing countries. Global terrorism. Geopolitical discussions like Taliban and Afghanistan. This is what is required. Yes, Parampreet, that's right. This is the requirement of your answer that you have to reflect. You had to tell me why it cannot be an efficient economic cooperation or integration. And then you have to tell me what are the proposed recent geopolitical agendas that are taken up along with the economic agenda. And then you can conclude. Then you can conclude by saying that still this is a far-fetched dream that Brics can be a leader in the geopolitical world. Why? Because of presence of China and India in the same grouping with diverse interests. This can still limit Brics' geopolitical ambitions. Is it clear? Right. So that will be your concluding paragraph. That's going to be your concluding paragraph where you will be telling that presenting Brics as a geopolitical leader is a far-fetched dream because of the mutually clashing ambitions of two most prominent members, India and China, which again limit the role, or you can say, which again limit the growth of Brics in geopolitical terms. Have you got the idea how to write this answer? Criticize for absence of requirements of an economic integration. Brics can play the role of a leader in geopolitics. Discuss. This is what is to be written in 200 words, which you can very easily do. Right? Can we go ahead now? All right. So now we are going to talk about animal species, and this is one of the most favorite animal species that UPSC target, because I have seen in UPSC questions by my own experience, questions on gangetic dolphins, question on freshwater dolphins, right? And now let's talk about the Irrawaddy dolphins. Irrawaddy dolphins. Irrawaddy dolphins are freshwater dolphins. True or false? Irrawaddy dolphins are freshwater dolphins. True or false? See, Irrawaddy is the name of the river. Irrawaddy is the name of the river. And river has fresh water. So your common sense will tell you that because these dolphins are related to this river Irrawaddy, they must be the freshwater dolphin. But no, no. These dolphins can also be found in brackish water. For example, the waters of Chilika Lake. Where is Chilika Lake? Odisha. Which is a lagoon having high concentration of salt. Therefore, Irrawaddy dolphins are not only found in the fresh water, they can live even in estuarine brackish water, for example, the Chilika Lake. These Irrawaddy dolphins, they were in news because of this Lake Chilika only, that this particular year, in the last 8 months, 8 dolphins have died. 8 Irrawaddy dolphins have found dead in Lake Chilika in last 8 months. Particularly when this dolphin is remarked under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. It is placed under the highest protection, that is Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. What is the IUCN status? What is the IUCN status? Endangered. Very good. Is Irrawaddy dolphins endemic to India? Are they endemic to India? No, because they are found even outside India. Endemic species are those species which are found only in India and nowhere else. But these are not endemic because they are found in both South and Southeast Asia. South and Southeast Asia. These Irrawaddy dolphins, they are predominantly found in certain areas. There are 3 rivers. First is the river Irrawaddy. Second is the river Mekong. All right. And the third is the river Mahakam. So Mahakam river is in Borneo, Southeast Asia. Mekong, again, China and Myanmar.
And Irrawaddy is the most prominent river of Myanmar. It is also known by the name Ayarwady River. Is Myanmar river having any basin area in India? Does Irrawaddy river have any basin area in India, or is it completely out of India river? Irrawaddy has 4% basin area in India, 5% basin area in China, and rest is in Myanmar. Rest is in Myanmar. All right. This Irrawaddy river has a very, so India के साथ link क्या है? What is the most, which river is the major tributary of river Irrawaddy? Which river is the major tributary of river Irrawaddy? याद रखना, very important. No, it's not Brahmaputra. How come? No. It is Chindwin. Chindwin river. Chindwin river has Manipur river as its tributary. There is this Manipur river in India, which is the tributary of Chindwin, and Chindwin is the tributary of Irrawaddy. That makes India a 4% contributor in the basin area of river Irrawaddy, where these Irrawaddy dolphins are found. Next is river Mekong, then is river Mahakam. Out of Irrawaddy, Mekong and Mahakam, which river has its association with the Indian river Ravi? Which of the following river, Irrawaddy, Mekong and Mahakam, has association with river Ravi? Answer is Irrawaddy. Let me tell you, the name Irrawaddy is taken from the Buddhist name for Ravi river, and the Buddhist literature call Ravi as Irravati. From this name, the river Irrawaddy derives its name. Irrawaddy is a Buddhist name. All right. Ayarwadi is a Buddhist name. And this Buddhist name was for the Ravi river of northwestern India. And Ravi river in Buddhist literature is known as Irravati. And from there, this name Ayarwadi or Irravadi is taken. Is it clear? Right? So it is found in Mekong river, Mahakam river, Irrawaddy river. Mekong primarily Myanmar, Irrawaddy primarily Myanmar, whereas Mahakam is in Borneo. All right. Apart from this, there is Lake Chilika, which is another location for these dolphins, that is Irrawaddy dolphins. And then there is this lake known as Sankhla Lake. Sankhla Lake. Where will you find the Sankhla Lake? Where will you find the Sankhla Lake? Songkhla, Sankhla. It's in Thailand. It's in Thailand. Yes. So Sankhla Lake is just like Lake Chilika. It's a lagoon. It's a lagoon. So Sankhla Lake and Chilika Lake, these are the two lagoon lakes. These are the two lagoon lakes where these Irrawaddy dolphins are found besides the river Irrawaddy, Mekong and Mahakam. Is it clear, everyone? Which is India's largest lake? Which is India's largest lake? India's largest lake is Baikal. Sambar. Okay, great. India's largest lagoon. Yes, Vembanad. ठीक है. India's largest lagoon is Chilika. Chilika is India's largest lagoon and world's second largest lagoon. All right. It was India's first Indian wetland of international importance under Ramsar Convention. Under the list of wetlands of international importance. This Lake Chilika also has a bird sanctuary. And the bird sanctuary that is there in this lake is the Nalaband Island. This Nalaband Island is the bird sanctuary that got the bird sanctuary status in 1987. All right. So Chilika Lake is India's largest lagoon lake, world's second largest lagoon, India's largest lagoon, and it is India's first wetland under Ramsar Convention under wetlands of international importance. All right. It has a bird sanctuary that is the Nalaband Bird Sanctuary. Nalaband Bird Sanctuary that got the bird sanctuary status in 1987, and it has Naina, it is Lake Chilika is in Odisha. All right. Lake Chilika is in Odisha, and India's largest lake is Vembanad Lake. Largest lagoon is Chilika. All right. And it has a very famous temple. The temple is Kali Jai Temple. On an island in Lake Chilika, there is a temple, Kali Jai Temple. All right. So this is important information with respect to. All right. This is important information with respect to Lake Chilika. Right. So Irrawaddy Dolphin, Irrawaddy River, Lake Chilika. These are important from this topic. Brics, its importance, why it cannot be a very efficient economic integration, but it can play a role in geopolitics. This is what we have discussed in the former topic. And before that, we have discussed what is communalization by media, what are the instances, and what steps the government has taken to tackle the problem of communalization. And we began our discussion with marital rape as a manifestation of both private patriarchy as well as public patriarchy. Is it clear to everyone? It is yet to be investigated, Akash. They are doing it. Chaliye. So with this, I'll close the session for today, and we'll meet the next Saturday at 12:30 p.m. now. All right. That's all. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye. Have a great weekend. All right. See you next week. 2:30. 2:30. Sorry, 2:30. All right. Bye, everyone. Bye. All right. Bye.